The score for The Walking Dead is one of the best scores made for television, and I'm here to tell you why. It communicates the show's themes as we witness our characters go through 10 seasons worth of trials and victories, all to build towards a better future. It's that hopeful element that really makes this show something special to me. Even when the music takes us to the rock bottom as our characters encounter loss and despair, it always manages to follow through with that underlying tone of hope. Plus, when you see comments saying things like this under some of the musical tracks, it's a good sign that there's something very special about both the show and its score. While studying through the 10 seasons currently released at the time of this recording, I've found a very diverse approach to the music with regards to the use of themes, instruments, and placement. Bear McCreary and his team have kept the score consistent to the universe while never being afraid to freshen it up, keep it dynamic, and expand into new areas throughout the seasons. So in this video, I just really want to show my love and appreciation for the score, as well as pointing out some things you might not have noticed before. I'll be sharing my interpretation of what some of the themes represent and some behind the scenes info. Bear McCreary, who's been the show's composer since the very start, put out a lot of blog posts early on in the first few seasons detailing his process and inspiration behind the score. And also Sam Ewing, who's the co-composer for Season 10 and has been involved since Season 5, was really generous and took the time to sit down with me to discuss the score, so I've got lots of amazing insights from that which I can't wait to share with you guys. Now, I'm not musically trained, but I have studied film and work as a full-time video producer, so my approach will focus more on how the music plays a part in the scene and helps to tell the story more effectively. I'd also really love for you to show your support by leaving a like and commenting some of your favourite musical moments from the show. I'm actually pretty optimistic that if we can show enough love for the score, it might encourage another few album releases. And with the show's end in sight, now would be a perfect time to officially release the 7+ seasons worth of unreleased music. So please make sure to show your support and love for the score, and let's dive into it. Frank Darabont, the show's creator, chose Bear McCreary because he didn't want to do the obvious thing expected from a horror score, and he knew Bear would be able to achieve a unique, innovative sound. Bear's talked about putting a lot of effort into supporting that vision and avoiding doing the expected or obvious, which is a great foundation for such a unique story. Anyone who's seen the show knows it's not just a run-of-the-mill zombie horror. In Bear's words, it's a character drama that just happens to be set in the zombie apocalypse, and the score certainly reflects that focus. Looking at the first episode, we can see that the music is very minimal and only used in very specific moments. The silence is extremely effective to give the feel of an empty world and shift the dramatic focus onto the characters. Some other shows may have put scary music in moments such as Rick waking up from the hospital, discovering the bicycle lady, and especially the big herd reveal towards the end. The scene of Rick waking up in the hospital goes on for several solid minutes before any music is introduced. And even when it is, it's focused on Rick's emotional state as the realization of what he's woken up to starts to sink in. Similarly, at the end of the episode, the music only jumps in right as the focus goes back to Rick's thoughts as he has to make a desperate last-minute decision. And this scene was actually where the inspiration came from for the main title theme, which was developed out of this cue. Now, one of the first leitmotifs that we hear in the series is the track called Rick's Despair. This is the first time the music really takes a front seat and pulls you into Rick's shoes. Bear said that this track was originally planned to be used only once off, but as with some of the other tracks we'll cover, it found places to come back later in the series. It makes a return early in Season 2, when Laurie's riding onto the farm after finding out that Carl's been shot. This use here inspired Bear to think of it more as a Grimes family theme, surrounding times when they're broken apart or reunited. The fact that it was used in the pilot episode, and only sparingly since, puts it in a special place in the back of our minds, which makes it even more devastating when it's used again in Season 3, which we'll come back to soon. The other standout track from the pilot episode is one called The Mercy of the Living. This was the moment that really defined the first episode to me. The tranquility of this moment is far from what anyone would expect to come out of a zombie genre show. And it really sets the standard for a serious character drama that's using the genre to propel the stories instead of the other way around. The music was created to hover over the scene and not comment on any specific moments. is something that was a part of the philosophy of the scoring. Not to comment on the action, especially in morally questionable scenes, but to leave room for the audience to decide how they want to view the situation, instead of being told how to feel by the music. This track makes a few returns throughout the series, but my favourite is when it makes a very brief comeback in the episode called Mercy from Season 8. Season 1 also introduces us to the sounds we can expect to hear from the series, such as the zombie banjo and pulsing, exhilarating action horror cues. The instruments used here capture a lot of the southern character of the state of Georgia, which provides the background for a lot of the series, before the texture of it evolves and changes as the characters move on. So with the foundations of the show now established, we move into Season 2. I love the opening track that reintroduces us to the world and characters. It builds momentum for the journey ahead and features the main title melody alongside the percussion of the track. The track ends in a way that leaves you excited for the journey ahead as we see the wide shot of our characters leaving the city, and creates a perfect transition into the main title sequence, propelling you into the new season with momentum. The second season of the show has a lot of space for things to take place, both literally as it's set on a big farm, and thematically as the characters have a lot of time to reflect on events that are taking place without constantly having to be on the run. The music continues to use restraint and complement the peaceful atmosphere of the farm, only coming in when necessary to punctuate a specific scene. The restraint in other scenes makes the moments where music is used much more powerful and places emphasis on things that might have been less noticeable otherwise. One moment that really stands out to me is when Carl goes into a seizure on the bed. It really puts you into the shoes of Rick and Laurie, seeing their son in horrible condition with nothing they can do to help. Now we do get plenty of exciting action cues as well. I love the creative way that horror cues are turned into action cues to propel both the excitement and the terror of the scenes. Of course, the most shocking moment comes when Shane sacrifices Otis to save himself. It's a very dark moment, and a real turning point for Shane's character that he'll never truly come back from as he spirals into a villainous role. The main title theme makes a return here to punctuate the moment as something that'll have a lasting effect going forward. The music for Shane is interesting and consists of a few different leitmotifs, highlighting moments of emotional strain, anger, and change. There are a few darker and lighter sounding movements that seem to be in conflict, much like Shane himself. My favourite sound used for Shane is one which punctuates a couple of conversations between him and Laurie. It leaves the future open for his character without implying that he'll change for good or for bad. Of course, one of the big standout moments from earlier in the series is the reveal of Sophia in the barn. This episode had very little music leading up to the scene, and Bear talked about being very careful not to distract from or take over the moment. It starts out very ambiguous to keep you guessing until the very last moment before the reveal. I think the music struck the perfect balance here. Being too subtle could understate the importance of the moment. It was such a pivotal scene that the whole first half of the season had been leading up to, so it really needed to be supported by the music. But in the same strength, anything over the top could have taken away from the acting and the experience of realization that the audience is going through. We've been given the answer to one of the biggest questions we've had, but in a very unexpected and dark way, so the music has to balance the feelings of devastation and loss, but also peace and closure. I think it balances all those things incredibly, as well as leaving us excited and with anticipation for what's to come when the season returns.